What is going on? What's happening? What's going on? It's been a minute. It's been about a month, and I'm just really stoked to get back in the saddle here. I'm super focused on what's happening for this year, 1 year anniversary show, and I put out a little thank you to everybody, and I was really happy about this last year and everything, and I'm really excited about what the future holds. I have a ton of guests coming on. I think in the last like 2 days, I've probably had like 4 or 5 people book for the next X amount. I'm going to do probably 2 episodes a week for probably the foreseeable future. It's been really cool. And so about a year ago or so, I worked with a guy. The guy, it's like one of the most interesting dudes I've ever met in my life. He's just like really cool, interesting dude. And his name's Mike McCoy. And before he comes on, I'm gonna bring him on. Before he comes on, I just want to say, like, I'm fascinated with his story. He's like an X-Star guy, and for those of you that don't know what that is, it's like a sort of a practice group for the services industry. And he's like, just, I don't know, just really eccentric and very cool. And I learned a lot from him working with him. And he's always just added so much to like the work environment. I really enjoyed working with him. So anyway, here he is, Mr. Michael McCoy.
Hey, how's it going, man?
Michael. I never called you Mike. I did call you. You weren't Goose because you were. Who's Goose's son again? What's his name? Rooster.
Rooster, yeah.
Yeah,
I definitely had a nickname, an ongoing nickname called Top Gun.
Top Gun.
Couldn't
Yeah,
necessarily put a finger on any of the characters, but it was just
yeah.
Top Gun because of the mustache.
So aside from Mike being living in a van or living in a bus that he retrofitted, which is actually really incredible. He's like a student of the game, loves to like just in general, like when one of my observations was like, you always do the right thing. You know what I mean? You're so thorough. You do such a great job in the field. And but yeah, man, who the heck are you, man? Michael, who are you?
Well, I'm Michael. So I live in North Texas. I moved down here a couple and a half years ago. I come from a small town in Illinois where the winters are cold and the summers are hot. But I came from a different type of industry, I guess. It was the same industry, but it's a little bit different up there. Everett, I know you come from Jersey, and the game's a little bit different up there. So coming down here, I came with a skill set of boilers and geothermal, and then regular split systems, and I never knew what a pancake unit was. I'll never forget my first sales call with one. It was hilarious. I called my boss at the time, and I was like, "Dude, where's the indoor unit at?" Like I had no idea. They took me to the bathroom.
Above the tub.
I was like, thanks for
Above
bringing
the
me to your
tub.
bathroom, but
Yeah.
where's the unit at? Yeah. So,
I hadn't
um,
seen them either, and then I didn't even know they were called pancake units. So
yeah,
for those of you guys that don't know, a pancake unit like literally sits like inside the house somewhere, like basically squished between like the walls, and then it like is connected to ducts, but it's pretty crazy kind of system. Um, and they called them above the tubs.
yep.
That's what, yeah, above the tubs. But
There's a, I was gonna say, there's a couple of other differences here. Up north, you got trunk lines, and down here it's more home run style. So, I remember my last employee review in Illinois. My boss wanted me to become an expert in ductwork, which trunk line ductwork's a little bit more complicated than home run ductwork, I would say. So I came down here, and it was just much easier to design a new system, right? New ductwork and all of that stuff. But yeah,
yeah,
so I moved down here a couple years ago. I thoroughly enjoyed North Texas. The people, I've been blessed to have the leadership of Mr. Everett Lapel for a short amount of time before he left me. But yeah, no, I love to do things outside. I love to go camping. I got 2 dogs, Honey and Rodeo, and we go live our best lives as much as we can. So.
tell them everybody about the van. I love this story.
Okay, so I don't know, about 10 years ago, I think I saw a video, and somebody had taken a Sprinter van and created a house inside of it. and they traveled all over the world and got to see all these cool things and stuff like that. And I had just kind of gotten my travel itch about 10 years ago. So I was just in my, my four-seater sedan, driving until I found something cool. But I actually have a short school bus. It's about 90 square feet in the back. It's got four windows on either side. There's enough room in there for basically a pull-out couch, a dinette set, a kitchen, refrigerator, and then an RV style toilet. And basically, it's got everything your house has in it, but it's just condensed down to 90 square feet. So after getting the bus, it took about a year. We bought it, and it basically had all the good bones and all that good stuff. Had a brand new engine and all that good stuff in it. But I'm the type of guy that wants to make things exactly the way they want them. So we virtually changed everything, and the electrical system. What's funny is I did a little stint with running sales calls for Home Depot, HVAC sales calls for Home Depot, and I actually did 100% of the plumbing in Home Depot parking lot because I'm not a plumber. I'm an HVAC guy. So of course I was buying, the wrong fittings, wrong sizes, all of that good stuff. But I learned a lot. I learned how to survive not being connected to anything whatsoever. During the whole, we went on a few month long road trip, and during that whole road trip, I never paid for a single campsite. So I paid $0
Mm.
to sleep, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I never plugged in anywhere. So
How did you do that? How did you find just free places? Were they Walmart parking lots?
no, well, a couple of times. Those aren't the most beautiful campsites, but so there's a few different apps where you can find BLM land. It's Bureau of Land Management land, where it's free to stay. You just got to find the camp spot, and as long as there is an established fire pit, you can stay there. There's a maximum amount you could stay, which is 14 days. But obviously, I had a large agenda of places to go, so I only stayed at one campsite during the whole road trip for more than 10 or 12 days, which was Jackson Hole, Wyoming. But yeah, there's the school bus. So if you look right there, you can see I actually put the shower on the outside
Mm.
because there just wasn't enough room on the inside. So in this picture on the other side of the left side, towards the very back, that's where the bathroom is. And there just wasn't enough room for a shower in there. So
You did everything yourself?
most of it, yes. Like I said, we bought it with kind of I mean, we could have took it camping when we bought it, but everything that you see there was either changed or done by me,
Mm.
with
Interesting.
help of my better half of me, obviously. But
So how
sheesh.
much? So how much did the whole thing cost you?
Mm. So the bus itself was about 15 grand. But here's the thing is basically the whole drivetrain was replaced in it, which I got all the paperwork and stuff like that, which actually amounted to about that much. So I virtually got, brand new engine, brand new drivetrain, all the parts and pieces under the hood, for the cost of the thing. And then the electrical system, probably a couple thousand. The plumbing, I mean, obviously, I don't know. I would say all in all, maybe 20 to 25,000
Mm.
to have a house.
You still own it?
Yeah, it's sitting outside right now.
Wow. Do you still go places with it?
Yeah, every once in a while. So actually, over Thanksgiving, we decided not to go home and wanted to go camping. We didn't go, but I love it. So we still indulge every once in a while when I have time when I'm not running sales calls.
Hmm. So, a- and had you already done HVAC prior to going on the road, or did you go on the road, came back, and okay, you'd already done it?
So actually, the story is I started in HVAC in Illinois, and I was in HVAC for a few years, and then we decided to move to North Texas. I worked for a company for, I don't know, a year and a half, and I remember it was May, and I already had the whole schedule filled for May and June. Um, so it's a good problem to have, right? But the problem is I'm not getting paid for those jobs, and it seems like it was just didn't have enough, uh, I guess, manpower to keep up with the demand. We also used subcontracted installers, which I wasn't a huge fan of, but nonetheless, I took the opportunity to kind of expedite my dream and get on the road and see what's out there. And we got, I don't know, I can't even remember what the count of states we went to was, but it was a lot. We tried to stay near mountainous terrain. Obviously, I love the mountains. Love the mountain bike and ski and all of that stuff. So, but yeah, the ability to stay on all those places without being connected to the grid. Obviously, solar power. I had a big battery in there where we could survive 3 days without sun. And then we had a backup generator, obviously, but I had 30 gallons of fresh water on the road. And then that we actually had to learn how to kind of conserve that. 30 gallons is not a whole lot of water whenever you're cooking and washing
Showering.
dishes. And well, here's the thing with showering though, is I, either we would stop somewhere to shower, like a Planet Fitness or something like that, or we would park near a body of water so I could kind of fill a bucket. And I had an instant hot water heater. So basically what you'd do is you'd put the hose, the suction hose in the water, and then you
Just put the suction hose in the water, and like you just kind of have to like put it underneath a rock or whatever so that it stays there and it doesn't go anywhere and it pumps in the water. Oh, dude, that's
so
that's so off the grid. Well, let me ask you this: you had cell phone service, right? I mean, you're traveling around the country, so you had cell phone service, right?
So a lot of places, no, actually. Specifically like Wyoming, when we were in Wyoming, that's my favorite state. We spent the most time there. We probably spent a month to a month and a half in Wyoming itself. And um, basically, we had Starlink. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
Elon Musk, you had Starlink. That's pretty cool. You should have that everywhere, right?
yeah, so you know what's crazy is the further out you are, the better that internet works, and the quicker it is, and the lower the latency is. So I would play first-person shooter video games with no lag and 30 ping. I mean, obviously that's a little bit in the weeds, but yeah, no, that it never failed us a single time. So Mia actually worked on the road. She uh, is a business person. She does like compliance and accounting and auditing and all that stuff. And she could do that on the road, and her company that she works for was gracious enough to let her do it, which is
So
incredible.
you guys had an income while on the road. That's cool.
Yeah.
That you could do some cool stuff. So what was the coolest experience you had on the road?
So I would say it's a place more than an experience, because
Where
this
was that?
place just had all of the experiences. I was Jackson Hole, Wyoming.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got to stay. I stayed for 16 days. The limit's supposed to be 14, but I break the
You
rules
rebel.
here.
You rebel, you.
Stayed for 2 extra days against Uncle Sam's laws. But so there's 2 national parks near there, one of which is Grand Teton National Park, and the other one is Yellowstone National Park. And what most people hear about is Yellowstone National Park, probably because of the TV show, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
It's very underwhelming. Was not a fan at all. I like mountains. I like whitecap mountains, and I like wildlife. So if you like wildlife, you can go to Yellowstone and see some wildlife. But if you want to see cool mountains, jaw-dropping scenery, just insanity, go to the Tetons, because there's several hikes there where you can see, moose, elk, bears. I mean, you name it, you could see it there. But my favorite part of it was Mia and I did, I think it was like a 4 mile and some change hike. And we saw some moose on there and several different forms of wildlife. But afterwards, there's like a base restaurant where they sell pizza, right?
Okay.
And we kind of sat on this deck with the panoramic view of the Tetons, and we both had a beer and enjoyed some pizza, and that's probably probably my favorite experience.
Think about that. All the experiences in the world, and it's like being in the wilderness and eating pizza and drinking a beer or soda or whatever. Like that's super cool, man. You know, it's funny. I was watching this video online about these people who travel around everywhere and, like what you were doing, like off the grid kind of living. And one of the things that they talked about, that the best trip that they took was Teton.
Yep.
And I started going down the rabbit hole. I was like, I could do this. I could RV it out there. I wouldn't, I don't have one. So I was like, I could get out there and I could RV it, get to one of these parks and just be completely off the grid. And yeah, it's actually a really appealing, like really, really appealing to me. Like yeah.
You know, what's funny is the initial reason now, I'm lucky enough to have Mia, which is a catalyst towards any of my dreams. And I'm kind of a research everything and then jump after researching it for, years or whatever. But she's like, we gotta go get this bus. And I was like, okay, well, I'll use it as kind of an investment, right? I can rent it out. There's an app called Outdoorsy. You can put anything you want on it to go camping, basically. And so I looked at it and I was like, man, first of all, the market in DFW is not saturated whatsoever with these camper vans or anything like that. Anything unique, at least. And there was no retro style or anything like that. And there's obviously people that love the retro niche and want to kind of experience it. So the funny thing is initially I bought it for an investment, and then I put a lot of labor, a lot of hours, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into it. And I was like, I don't think that I could allow somebody to screw this thing up. So
I don't think I could sell it, Mia. I don't think I could sell it. I think we're gonna keep it. I think we're gonna travel around the country. Ask your employer if you can work on the road. Boom, done.
Yeah, so she tells me all the time that she's ready for it to go, but I'm not quite ready to get rid of it yet.
How long did it take you to get back acclimated when you came back, and now you're like, well, I got to get a real job? And
so, you know what's funny is that's another crazy thing about being so far away from humans for so long. Now, there was a period of time where I realized that I probably might have lost a little bit of my mojo in regards to talking to people and things like that, but I picked up where I left off. But the sound. So the sound whenever we moved back. So I live in an apartment, and we basically stayed in the same apartment complex but moved apartments. They let me park my pickup truck and all that stuff here. They let me keep it here because they enjoyed the process of the bus being built in the parking lot and all that stuff too. So they're really cool about it. But I remember the first night that we were supposed to sleep after being on the road for so long was so loud. Like, we live next to somewhat of a main road and then a kind of a side road, and it was so difficult to sleep. So
wow.
Yeah, so that type of I mean, stimuli, like external stimuli of all the sounds and things that we just kind of tone out. When you get back from being in the middle of nowhere, it's really, really pronounced. And
I was just thinking about that, like people who live. I literally was just thinking about this. I'm like, people who live in New York City, let's say, right? They're it doesn't even matter. Even if you're near, Central Park, it doesn't matter. Wherever you are, it's loud. And the only thing you can do is if you lived in the middle of your apartment building, you can kind of soundproof the walls and that's it. Otherwise, it's completely loud. So I can totally understand that. That's so weird. And so when you came back and you got your mojo back, it takes a few calls, right? You got to kind of get back into the swing of things.
It was funny enough though. The first call I ran when I got back was under you. And,
okay, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I sold it obviously, but
I don't remember that call actually. What do you remember? I don't remember.
So it was kind of a throw you to the wolves situation, which obviously I enjoy that, but there's just so much paperwork and stuff that I just didn't know how to do. So I was like, I tell you what, I'll go here and sell this, and you're gonna have to help me with doing the paperwork and all that.
I think I remember that. And like the thing was that everybody went through like a substantial amount of training and ride-alongs and everything else, but you already had experience. And I was kind of like, okay, let's like speed track you through it, right? And
Yeah, and
then,
that's what I asked for. I asked for it. So
sink or swim, baby. You swam.
yeah,
You floated. You
yeah,
floated, a
yeah.
little backstroke action, you drown a little bit, you come back up for air, it's
Yeah,
good. You always kind
it
of
was a super cool call too. It was one of those feel good calls where you kind of thank them for reminding you, why you do what you do. This lady, she was an older black woman, and she had written a book and all these other things. She had a super impressive life, and it was all due to her having a disability.
I do remember this. She gave you a
Yeah,
book, right?
yeah. She gave me a
Wait,
book and it wrote me a
she gave you
note.
two
And
I think she gave you two copies. Didn't you gave me a
yeah,
copy.
I gave you one. Yeah,
You gave me a copy. I didn't read it. I'm going to be
I
honest
did.
with you. I didn't
I
read it. I
also
got to go
didn't.
find it. Now I want to read it, but it was interesting.
I also didn't read it, but
Yeah.
she told me her story in person, so didn't
Yeah.
really need
What's
to
the
indulge.
most so in all your calls that you've run for however many years, what's the coolest call you've run? What's the weirdest story or the coolest story you've ever heard?
So I have a few here, and it's kind of a range of topics, right? So I have one that was kind of alarming. I get a funny one, I get a scary one, I get a hoarder one, I get a trophy room one. You choose.
Yeah, let's go with like just in general terms, most interesting story. Like the one where you're like, man, that was really strange, or that was really cool. That's what I like to hear. I like to hear those stories.
Okay. So this one is might be X-rated for some audiences, but I wrote down here. I don't want to say.
No,
Well,
what's the name of this story, Mike? I want to hear it. What's the name of it?
it's called Dildo Factory.
Oh, a
Okay,
factory of
a factory
dildos.
of dildos. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So,
Okay.
what's funny is I just came into the trades too, and the way that that company was run is they kind of make you ride out with plumbers, electricians, HVAC guys, kind of get a feel for what everyday life is, right? And that day, I just so happened to be with our licensed plumber, and he was also just a whiz in HVAC as well. So they wanted to get an estimate for a mini split too. So they had a failing geothermal unit, and they needed an estimate
All right.
for
All right, let's do this because not everybody knows it. So geothermal is a unit that literally gets like dug into the ground. It gets the energy for the unit like to cool all the way in the earth, like way down.
250 feet.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And so they're very expensive units. And a mini split is also kind of odd and like not odd, but it's just not as, I guess, as common. And that's the units you see in like hotels that are like up on the walls.
Yep.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah, so basically, I remember corresponding with the plumber because I was gonna give him an estimate for the mini split, and we knew that the water furnace needed replaced too. So I was gonna leave him an estimate for that too. So we get there, and the guy, I mean, it's a big, beautiful place. Like you get there, and there's a field, like a football field of solar panels, and there's a big gate. You go back, half a mile to where the actual house, and um, there's several warehouses and stuff back there. So the guy kind of gives us a tour, and we get to one of the warehouses, and I walk in the door, and I just see sex toys all over the place. So these people actually invented a form of the vibrator, or something of that nature, and they also, I don't know if you're familiar with sex toys, but they also they
So
also
familiar.
they also invented, I'm not going to say the first name, but the second name of it is a saddle. Okay. So it's an
I
apparatus.
don't even know what the first name would be. My brain is drawing a blank, bro. I have
Okay.
no clue.
Well, it's the brand, but nonetheless.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So basically, I'm trying to keep it
This is in the
professional.
woods of Illinois, bro.
Little tiny town, middle of nowhere.
Middle of nowhere, and the people that invented a specific type of sex toy.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, some form of vibrator, and then also a saddle of some sort. So I'm trying to keep professional, and I'm walking past the front area where they probably either take shipments or ship things off, and I'm kind of looking around, and I just see sex toys everywhere, and I'm like, okay, what's happening here? So he
Right.
takes us to the water furnaces, and I get whatever I need and all that stuff, and I see this assembly line of just these saddles going up and down, and at that time I didn't know what they were. It's like, I don't know what those things are, but there is several sex toys everywhere. So I'm just gonna, keep it professional and get my job here done. it didn't end there. After I was in the manufacturing of sex toys place, he kind of gave us a tour of the property, and we went into the house, which is where I was quoting the mini split at. But um, basically, uh, he took us in his home. There was a ballroom and all these things, and that's when he tells us the story of, however many years ago, his great grandpa or something invented the vibrator, and these saddles, they're made for women, and basically a woman mounts the saddle, right?
Mm.
And that's basically the gist of what you do, right? It's all mixed together. But anyways, picture this: I'm with my boss at this point too, and he's like a God-fearing man, as religious as it gets, and he's older, and I'm over here like 23, 24 years old. This is the most awkward thing ever because we're talking about sex toys, and I know that he's green in the gills because it was just insane. But anyways, yeah, so we went to I call it the dildo farm, actually, because the name of it is actually their name, family farm, and there's basically no warning that it's going to be a sex toy farm
Right. There's no
whatsoever.
farming being done there.
Yeah. Well, yeah, no
There's
agriculture.
there's no agriculture. There's no livestock.
It's specifically dildos and
Wow.
saddles. Yeah.
Wow.
So that was probably
And that was you were green as a goose right there. You came
green
out.
as green as a
Wow.
goose too. It
That's
came
pretty.
right out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was a complex call too. Geothermal is not an easy thing to learn. Nobody has them.
Was it awkward? Like, was it awkward because you had to like just ignore what was going on, or they didn't really care about you being awkward? They were like they like, to them it was like super normal, so it really didn't matter. Is that
Exactly. So it was awkward because I saw these sex toys and was like, I had no context, no reason, like had no idea why. And then
yeah.
we get into the manufacturing part, and you see, they're making these things there, and that's why they're on display.
Dude, have you been in a house where people have these boudoir like
Oh yeah.
photos that they've taken? The
No, not
most
photos. I've been in the rooms though.
Okay,
Like,
so I've been in houses where the boudoir, I don't know, however you say it. It's like these, like, the racy photos. The funny part about it is, like, they mounted them there, like, like 10 years prior, and they're just on the wall. And then, like, they already then they had kids, but they never took down the boudoir photo. So their kids have grown up with that on the wall.
yeah, that's
I've seen that. I've seen
super
that.
cringy to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. So I've listened to every episode of this podcast there is, and I've heard many stories, hilarious stories about people derobing or seeing the boudoir
Yeah.
photos or anything like that. And I'm like, you know what? I've been doing this for a while, and I've never had anything like that happen. I've been into like sex rooms and dildo factories, but maybe a man once. A man's, I get a warning from a technician that his robe might come undone while I'm in the home, but uh,
Yeah.
nothing crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. What's the funniest shit that's ever happened to you, though? Like, where you may have had to step out of the room, kind of funny. Like
Dude,
this.
Dude, the funniest I would say was actually the dildo factory, but I would say, I don't know. I mean, there's been many funny ones. I'll tell you, this guy that I was just talking about with the robe. So the technician, and I've always been a big advocate for having really good relationships with the technicians, because if they trust you with their customer, they're gonna set the lead up better for you, right? And this technician calls me and he's like, dude, this guy is like an old farmer. He comes to this house in the winter when, he's not at his farm or whatever. And it reminded me of a movie. Um, I can't remember what the movie, Silence of the Lambs, maybe.
Oh my gosh! It puts the
Um,
lotion in the basket.
yeah. So, okay.
Oh
Exactly.
my
Exactly.
god!
So I get into the home, and the home is still decorated. I mean, it's like July and it's decorated with Christmas. And I'm like, all right, this guy's a little strange already. Lives by himself, doesn't have a wife or anything. Right, okay. So he had a sophisticated system. It was like a Trane quiet top air conditioner. I was like, hell yeah, about to get a good sale here, you know. And there in Illinois, they have crawl spaces, which there's probably a lot of people listening to this that are familiar with the crawl space applications. And so he's still in his robe, mind you. And I'm like, can you take me to the crawl space? I could, get some measurements, take some pictures, stuff like that. And it's in his closet. And
Mm.
so he takes me into his master bedroom and into the closet, and it's like a scene from the movie, I shit you not. He pulls up this hatch that's in the floor to get into the crawl space in his robe, but he's not wearing anything under, and he's like, it's down there. And I was like, I'm good, man. I don't think I'm gonna go down there. And yeah, no,
Oh,
that's the only.
whoa. You said you wouldn't go down. Did he make you feel that uncomfortable?
Yes, yes.
What?
Yeah, so
Really?
that scene from that movie where the person is down there and the guy's like yelling at him, it puts the lotion on its skin, flashes through my head, and I'm like, I don't feel comfortable doing that because like I said, the technician warned me that his robe would come undone accidentally, on
Wow.
accidentally on purpose, and he wasn't wearing anything under it. So yeah, I was
Accidentally on purpose.
yeah, but nonetheless, after that, it went well. Made a sale, and the guy was cool. Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
he wanted you in his dungeon so
exactly.
that
You want to man his crawl space.
he wanted you in his crawl space. Oh man. Oh geez, dude.
You
That's
you know,
crazy.
you know what's funny? In all the years that I've been doing HVAC, that was the first and only time for years that I felt uncomfortable like that until I moved to Dallas. I'll tell you what, there's some characters here every once in a while.
Well, it's kind of a transient area. Hey, have you been following any of this drone stuff?
So I've heard about it. I try not to pay attention that much, but I don't have to worry about it over here in Fort Worth. They don't do that stuff over here.
Well, it's interesting you say that. Okay, so I made the mistake of so I saw a bunch of drones the other night
Hmm.
here, right off the reservoir, the lake, and I posted them on like different platforms, whatever. Okay, but I made the mistake of posting one of them on my personal kit page for TikTok, and I don't know how to explain, dude. I'm up to like 100,000
Oh
views.
no.
My inbox is completely full. So here's what happened. I was out there, okay, and I saw the drone. I saw one drone, and I'm like, that's a drone. And then I saw another one, and then I went down to the lake because I was about a couple blocks off, and I went down there and I took a video of like all of these drones. Now you may think, oh, they were planes. No, these were not planes. Planes have specific colored lights. Planes move like in a direction. These were like, it was crazy. There was a bunch of them. So I posted this video. It's been nonstop. And so this whole thing has been pretty crazy because they've been seeing them all over the place in New Jersey and in the Northeast and in other areas and some in Arizona. Like, it's so weird. So we don't know what's going on, but I just figured I'd add that in there because that's like, dude, that's pretty wonky, man. And there's a code word from now. You're not supposed, like, apparently, I don't know, people are getting shadow banned. So you're supposed to say Dior
What?
bags. Oh
What?
yeah, I've been seeing Dior bags. That's the terminology you're supposed to use. Dior bag. I've been seeing these Dior bags. Anyway, don't go down the rabbit hole. Just don't do it. Don't.
No, I've certainly heard about the drones over. It's like North Dallas area, right?
Yeah. Well, east of
North,
Dallas too.
north and
So,
east. Yeah.
yeah. But
No.
anyway, so there's a bunch of people that were from Fort Worth that saw my post and like, dude, I saw them here in Fort Worth, and I was
I
like,
didn't see him.
yeah, that first one was actually there's a base out there.
Yep.
And they said that they saw him out there, but
Well,
some
so
of these things they're like the
that's the
size of
thing.
like cars.
Right over where I live, like the base is south of me, so like there's like fighter jets and all that stuff flying all the time, and there's a private airport over here too. So, I mean, there's things in the air all the time over here. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't have noticed.
So what else you
Maybe.
got in the old arsenal there? You got some fun little stories there?
Yeah. So,
Tell
okay.
us a
So
tale. Tell us a tale.
I'll tell you. It will be more like, so I was in this trailer, um,
Oh.
but I wrote down locked in this trailer.
Oh
Okay.
wow.
So, all right. So it starts with me getting dispatched a call. I get the address, and I'm driving kind of in the middle of nowhere, right? Because I tend to do better with folks in the middle of nowhere. I don't know why. It's just kind of been my demographic for a while. And basically, I show up to a house, and it's a nice house, and they got beautiful dogs. They greet me at the truck, and they're like, "What are you doing here?" And I'm like, "I'm here to give you an estimate for a new furnace, I think." And they were like, "No, we didn't call you." And I was like, "Are you sure? Because is this your address?" And I show them the address, and they're like, "Yeah, that's here, but who are you looking for?" And I tell them who I'm looking for, and they're like, their body language completely changes. They're like, "Oh." Like, it's that way around the curve, and you'll see it whenever you'll know where you're at when you see it. And I was like, "Oh boy, okay." Well, nonetheless, I drive down the road, and I find this. It's a mobile home, and it's the kind of mobile home where the entire house is in the front yard. Okay, so like everything is outside. And I see, the cliche sign, if you could see this, you're within range type thing, which that stuff doesn't bother me. But um, I'm walking up to the door, and there's a wheelbarrow there. And this little kid, he's probably 8 or 9 years old. He's under there, under the wheelbarrow, like popped out from under a wheelbarrow and scared the crap out of me. And he's doing his homework under there. I'm like, what the heck is going on here? So I go up to the door, and the little
How old
kid,
is this
like,
kid? 8, 9 years
he's
old?
8 or 9 years old, yeah,
Yeah.
probably. So you'll find out later he was really the only kind of normal kid. And so I go to the door, and he's like yelling for his mom, and I noticed that the deadbolt, when you deadbolt your house, you deadbolt from inside. Well, the deadbolt was on the outside, so you could lock it from the outside. So the lady answers the door, pretty normal for somebody who would live in a situation like that, pajama pants, and all of her chest hanging out and things like that. But so she lets me in, and when I get in there, I mean, there's like no floors, studs, animal feces, urine, and there's two other kids that are probably between 7 and 9 year old as well, but they're wearing diapers. Okay, so I'm already like, what's going on here? So it's disgusting, and there's two kids only in diapers, and the lady's kind of telling me what's going on. I was like, okay, well, I'll take a look. And she locks me in. She takes her key and locks the door. Okay.
Whoa.
So then I'm on like, okay, you're freaking me out. And she's like, yeah, so the two kids in the diapers were like highly autistic, and they would try to escape. And that is why you could lock it from the outside, and use the key to unlock the door from the inside. So it's a mobile home.
Yeah.
It's a mobile home. So basically, you know how in mobile homes they have the like hallway, so like living room, and then there's
Yeah,
a
yeah,
corridor
yeah, yeah. You
to the
walk in,
bedroom.
there's a hallway going this way and that way. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So
Yeah.
basically, that hallway had a makeshift kind of door. It was made out of plywood and 2x4s. So I mean, somebody just did it, and it had a padlock on it, right? So
The
she explained
hallway,
them.
wait, the hallway had a padlock on it?
Yes. So when the kids are in bed, they can't come and try to escape, or whatever, right?
Right.
So
But there's no floors though? So you're walking on beams? So these
so
kids have to
no, I mean like nice, like there's no carpet or tile or
Oh,
anything.
it's
It's
like
like,
plywood.
yeah, plywood
Yeah,
basically. Yeah.
okay, okay.
And then there's studs on the wall. There's a TV hanging on the wall. There's like two ratty couches. I mean, it was filth, right? One that you might feel obligated to like tell somebody about. There's
Right.
kids living there. But
Yeah.
anyways, back to the door, the plywood door leading to the hallway. So there's a padlock on it, and she takes her keys out and unlocks the padlock. And she's like, back this way. I'm like, okay. So she shows me where the furnace is supposed to be. There's nothing there. You can see the grass under the house, right? And so there's just a hole. There's no gas run, no LP, none of that. None of it's ran yet. I'm like, yeah, no big deal. And then she's like, all right, well, I'll let you do your job or whatever. She closes the freaking plywood door and padlocks me in there. So like at this point, Somebody's in the back
Under
sleeping
underneath the house or in that hallway?
in the hallway.
So to get underneath there was through that hallway, and then
Yeah.
she locked the door. So
So
she locked
basically,
you in the front door and then locked you in that door.
exactly. Yes.
Wow.
So basically,
Okay.
she told me like not to be too loud because her husband was sleeping um, in a
She
room at
told
the
you
end
this
of
after you walked into the door or
the
before?
literally after. So now I know there's a guy back there sleeping somewhere. And I take my pictures, whatever, and I'm like, all right, I got to get out of here because I'm freaking out now. Because you look in the rooms and it's like blankets on the floors, filth, trash, everything. And so I like knock on the door to like get out of the plywood corridor or whatever that door thing was that she locked me in there with. And she takes me back out to the living room. And at this time, before, the two kids that were in diapers were very calm and they were sitting on the couches. And this, after I get out of the hallway, they're no longer calm. They have metal poles and they're like beating each other with them. And it's just chaos.
So she let you back into she unlocked that
Let's,
door.
yeah, so
Did,
let's me
did you have
back
to
in.
knock? Did you have to
Yes,
knock to get back
yes,
in? Holy
yes.
smokes.
Yeah, so I'm already like on high alert. Like I need to get out of this house,
Dude, what
right?
are you thinking at this point in time? Like,
I
I
need to
mean,
get
were you
out.
not
Like
thinking like just
they're gonna
what?
kill me. They're gonna murder me. Like my life's over. And so I'm freaking out. And so I get into the living room and I'm just talking.
They're
I'm
gonna
talking,
murder me.
trying to kind of diffuse the situation and get on her good side or whatever. And
Could you tell that she was volatile?
yes.
Whoa. Okay.
So everything about it was bad. So these
Wow.
kids are now beating each other with metal poles, and now they're starting to hang all over me. Now, when I say hang all over me, one of the kids like grabs me around my neck and like is hanging off the front of me. One of them's hanging off my bag. They're like bullying me basically,
Yeah.
and one of them,
I think they're trying to rob you.
yeah, one of them tried to steal my wallet.
Yeah.
Exactly, I was getting there. So one
Yeah.
of them tried to take my wallet, and she
Yep.
was like, "You should sit down." Like had me sit on the couch so they couldn't steal my wallet. And I was
Oh,
like, all right, well,
she saw them try to steal your wallet?
yes, yes.
Wow. Okay.
So at this point, I'm like, I do sit down because I don't want them to steal my wallet without me knowing or whatever. And she's, I think at this point she could see that I'm uncomfortable and I want to leave. But the funny thing is that she was ready to buy. Her parents were going to buy her a furnace. And I was like, well, I have to go back to the shop and,
Yeah,
look
work
at
it
what I
all up for
got.
you. Yeah, I
Yada,
got to work it
yada.
all up
Yeah.
for you.
So I stand up and I'm like, all right, um, you know, I gotta go back to the shop and get you an estimate, yada yada yada. And so I'm like walking towards the door and she's like, are you sure you want out? Like she's like holding the keys like this. She's like, are you sure you want out? And I'm like, lady, if you don't let me out of this house, I'm gonna kick the door down. And I have never hightailed it back. So finally she lets me out. I've never hightailed it out of a place
What
as
was she
quickly.
was she inferring like, hey, do you want to stay and hang out with me? Is that what she was trying to say to you, you think?
Maybe, but more, I think she knew that I was kind of freaking out, like a little bit. So I kind of, so I kept my cool, but still, I was like, I got to get out of here. And yeah, no, she did like the creepy laugh with her keys and was like, "You sure you don't want to stay?" It's like,
Wow.
let me out of this place because there's a dude
Wow.
in the back, probably with a gun. I've been locked into several places in this house. It's disgusting. There's kids trying to rob me. Like, get me
Dude.
out of here.
Dude, that's crazy. So, and I've told this story, I think once before, but it's worth talking about it again. Very similar situation. I roll up, it's pitch dark, there's like no lights. I roll up, it's wintertime or whatever, it's pretty cold outside. I see a car parked outside and it's very patriotic, got all this marine stuff all over it. I'm like, all right, cool. You know what I mean? It's a mobile home, but it's cool. I walk up to go to the house. I walk in and there's a guy up there. It's kind of like a rotund, like, short guy, whatever. He's like, yeah, well, yeah, come on in, come on in. And I'm like, okay, cool. And I'm sitting there and I'm just like talking to him. I thought he was like the homeowner. Turns out he's not. He's like a guy that was like sort of friends with the woman that lived there. Now, mind you, I had a tech there earlier. And so it was very strange. Okay, this woman walks out of the from the trailer, walks in. Okay. She's like this big. She's like 4'10", 11, whatever. She's got like silver hair. Okay. She comes out, she's clutching something in her hands, and she just like looks at me, and she goes, "Do you know what it is to lose?" And I was like,
No.
Yeah, I do. I really do. And then she's like, "I have felt loss. Have you felt loss?" And it was like the fucking weirdest thing I've ever seen in my life. Well, I'm looking at them, and they have flanked me. So
Yep.
he is on the one side of me, she is on the other side of me, and there's that hallway, that corridor in the trailer, right? And she starts to clutch something and go for something in her purse, but I don't know what the hell is going on. I'm thinking this woman's gonna like fucking inject me with something, right? I had no idea. I'm starting to, so then I'm like, whatever. I start to back away towards the door, and luckily, the way they flanked me, the door was like near me, behind me. So then I was like, "Hey guys," I was like, "You know what? I got to check something out outside real quick or whatever." I walk outside. I can see them like make for me, right? As I go to walk around, the guy sticks his head out. The guy sticks his head out the door, and he's like, "Hey, where are you going? Where are you going?" And I'm like, "No, I'm just checking out. I'm just checking out the thing out here. I got to check it out." And he's like, No. You got to come back inside. You got to come back inside. No. No. You need to talk to her. You need to come back inside. I was like, "Holy shit, dude!" I'm like, "Yeah, no. I got to check something out here, bro." Dude, my truck was like, I got in my truck, bro. I hightailed it so fast out of there, bro. It wasn't even funny. Literally, my heart's pounding. I'm like, this woman's going to stab me with a needle. Like, it was the craziest thing. Look, man, you're inside people's houses, right? So I was in this house, right? So it's like, you never really know. You don't, but like most of the time you feel safe. Most people are pretty normal, right?
Yep.
But yeah.
I'd say like 95%.
95% of people
pretty normal. But yeah,
totally
no,
normal.
I've had several in the past year. I would say I've had 3 or 4 where I was like, "Code gray, get me out of here. I gotta go." And
speaking of that, tell me about the what's the one you said something happened to you in like deep dark delves of Dallas.
Oh yeah, it was in
the deep dark delves of Dallas. You had something happen to you, and it was pretty serious.
No, so it was scary because well, it was raining. Okay, so it was pouring down rain, and the house from the outside looks pretty decent. Like it's decent size. It's okay. It's not like the nicest neighborhoods of Dallas, but it's not like super ghetto or anything like that either. So it was deceiving. And I get up to the door, and I'm getting soaked because it's raining. And I walk inside, and I shit you not, either they were filming a rap video or something, but it was smoky, right? There was a super loud gangster rap music video playing on there, and there's like 10 grown men just like staring at me, like, "What are you doing here?" And I was like, so now my senses, so I'm wet, I can't hear, I can barely see because it's so smoky. And I'm like, "So I'm here to see so and so," which was their I think they called her their OG, right? Their mom or their grandma or whatever. Nonetheless, they take me into this back room, and um, 2 of them like stand out. One of them stands outside the door, and one stands in the room with me to make sure that I wasn't like messing with her or so. I don't know, taking advantage of her or something like that. But nonetheless, that was one of my codes. I was like, "I am very uncomfortable here. I need to get out. These guys don't like me. They aren't sure why I'm here, and I feel very unsafe." So, nonetheless, I get everything that I need, and my dispatcher calls me and it's like, "Hey, we got something. You got to hurry. You got to hurry." Like, you know how it goes.
Actually, April's in the chat over here, so
Oh, that's funny. Yeah,
yeah.
no, hilarious because she probably remembers it. But nonetheless, yeah, no, I had to get out of there because I was scared, and that's another funny one where they would have bought, but I did not feel comfortable sending installers into that situation. So.
That's true. There's people that call like contractors out, and they try to like, rob them or like, because, all right, so let's say you leave your truck outside.
Yeah.
And a lot of times the truck might have, especially in this industry, you may have a lot of tools. You're going to have a lot of stuff in the back, and then they just call you out and then they just rob you, man. Do you know how many times there's a company right here in Dallas that got robbed like twice in the last like couple of months? Just broke right into the yard and just took everything.
It's funny. There was a technician a couple months ago where he got like they were trying to steal stuff out of his truck and keep him distracted in the house.
Yeah,
while they were like trying to rob him. Yeah.
Yep. They keep you distracted.
Insane.
I got called out. Listen to this, right? You ever heard of Irish gypsies?
No.
Okay. Ready for this? So there's these, so gypsies, obviously you can look at watch these Netflix shows about like gypsies, right? And like a lot of these gypsies, they're like, it's a crime syndicate, right? And this is how they I don't want to get too in depth. Like I have people who know people. Anyway, long story short, dude, they what they do is they go out to quote a driveway. They're like, yeah, oh yeah, we'll do the driveway for you. We just gotta, and they'll come in cheaper than everybody else. And they'll be like, we'll do a great job. Oh, it's so good. We'll do a great job for you. And then, oh, we'll pave it nice and good and everything. And we'll make it nice. We'll pave it. And, it'll be beautiful. I'll do the edging for you and everything. Okay. And then oh, you probably got a quote for 10,000, didn't you? Yeah, I did. I'd do it for $6,000. Okay. And they're like, okay, cool. I take a deposit of 50% and I'll come right back in the morning and I'll take care of it for you, And then they just take the deposit. They just take the deposit and go and just bounce. See ya.
That happens all too often in the trades.
I mean, that happens even with like regular contractors, like not even like they don't even mean to. It's like, something happened. They had to take the deposit. They had to go, something happened. And they're like, shoot, I got to pay, Rob Paul to pay Peter. Right. I had a customer who paid on his Amex card. He paid a contractor for roofing shingles. Right. So he was going to have this whole big roofing, gutter, siding, everything. Right. He put down a whole bunch of money and he bought the materials. The materials got put onto the whatchamacallit, the driveway of the guy. And they sat out there through like snowstorms. They just never moved. They never went anywhere. Finally, he's like, buddy, can you please, I need you to come here and do this job. Well, turns out he never did it. So finally, one day he hears beep, 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 right? There's a truck backing up. And it's the supply company for the roofing. And he's like, what are you guys doing? They're taking all the roofing and everything material, all the shingles and everything. And he's like, what are you guys doing? He's like, hey man, we're taking this material back. This contractor didn't even pay us for this stuff. He's been on credit and we knew this stuff was here. So we came and got it. And he's like, what are you talking about? I paid for that. He's like, no. You paid the contractor. You paid the contractor. The contractor's supposed to pay us, but he never paid us. So we're taking the materials back. They took the materials back. He went to Amex. He called Amex. He goes, hey, I need to reverse the charges. He reverses the charge, right? He goes literally like the next day at the door, bang, 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 bang. It's the contractor who would not return his phone calls. And he goes, the contractor goes, why did you do that? Why did you reverse the charges? I'm SOL. You took $20,000 out of my bank account, blah, 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 all this stuff. You took all this money from me. He's like, bro, you didn't do the job. He called the cops. It was a big old thing. Yeah.
Happens all the time, man.
All right. Why. So I have this singular question that I ask on every episode. That's my most favorite podcast question.
Okay.
Mike, what is one experience, one interaction that you've had with a customer that lives with you, that everywhere you go, you carry it with you?
So I have one. It is long though, so we get on time.
Dude. It's my show. All right. So I was in this house with, you take as long as you want.
Okay. So I was in this house. Well, I'll tell you what led up to me getting there. Basically it was tech set lead. So my technician that I had already spent so much time with. This is, mind you, another one of my first calls in the industry. Probably one of the first 10 calls I ever ran in HVAC. And I go up to the house, and you're familiar with Nexstar, so you'll understand what I'm saying here. So It's a guy, one of those guys that answers the door. He's like an asshole, like from the get, like just a dick. And so I'm trying to make small talk with him. It's not working. Nothing's working. Nothing's working. So then I always fell back on my agenda card. Like the agenda card is still one of my favorite sales tools. So I get my agenda card out here and I get to the time allotment part where you set the expectations on how much time you'll be there. And I was like, it might take 60 to 90 minutes. We're going to do a really thorough job. I got to check everything inside, outside, make sure all your ductwork's okay, yada, yada, yada. And he was like, you'll be out of my house in the next 15 minutes. And I was like, oh, okay. So again, I'm new. So I'm like, yes, sir. Like kind of scared of this guy. His name is Bob, and he was like 85 years old. So he takes me. So I get my pictures in the closet. This was a downflow crawl space application, and get my pictures outside. And then I come back inside. I'm like, all right, so you ready to go over quotes? Like, so I forced him to sit down basically. And at this point, we're already like 20 minutes into the call. So I'm like, all right, I think I got this guy, right? So I sit down with him in his office. Now, this guy has a degree, a doctorate for everything, right? He's been a cop, he's been a pilot, he's been a rocket scientist, he's been in the military, like you name it, he was at some point in his life, which was crazy, right? So Bob sits me in his office. He's got this huge, elaborate like computer set up and all these other things. And we talk about it. So then he actually, now I'm in his space and I'm seeing all these things. It's like, all right, here we go. So I asked him, what he's doing. Yada, yada. He was writing a book at the time. And I saw on the wall, he had a doctorate in like mental health, like suicide, right? So at this time, I had lost my best friend to suicide. So it was really fresh for me, and I could tell that it was fresh for him. So I was like, all right, so let's forget about HVAC. Tell me about that. And so his son killed himself, and now he's basically dedicated his life to researching it and kind of preventing it from happening to other people, right? So he's a huge advocate for suicide awareness, and so was I. Well, so am I, but I was really, really fresh to it at that point in time. So he tells me the story. I tell him my story. And at this time, the guy's ready to do business with me because it humanized the situation. And we both got extremely vulnerable. And we told our stories. And then he's like, basically what he did was he was like, all right, let's get out of this room. Like it's depressing in here, right? And he takes me to the kitchen. And he's like, Mike, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to do business with you based on who you are, right? Didn't care about the company, didn't care about the equipment, none of that stuff. He wanted to do business with me. And that's obviously, we as sales reps, that's what we sell. We sell ourselves. And it was just so amazing to me that you're going to be out of this house in 15 minutes to me being there for 3 hours and telling my story about suicide awareness and my best buddy that killed himself and all these other things. And it's kind of funny at the end. I closed him, right? I did financing. We got to the financing table, and he's like, hey, I need you to finance this thing for as long as you can because I'm not planning to be here much longer. So that was another kind of reality check for me. Like, wow, some people just want to be comfortable in their last years on the planet.
Yeah, and the mortality, like the reality of like, hey, I don't really have that much time left, man.
Exactly. So the reason why I carry it with me is, for one, is no matter how much of an asshole a customer is when you walk in the door, you just got to figure out a way for them to open up, and it's possible. Because that was maybe the hardest sales call I've ever ran, and it ended up leaving with the business and a friend. And it was just, I mean, I gave him a book, he gave me a book, he checked in with me. It ended up going sour though. But like, never quit, always be relatable, get somebody talking.
Well, you can't, so you can't plant a seed like that. And then, so what, the job just didn't go well. It just didn't go well.
So it went fine. But I was ignorant, right? So, everything went fine. Everything worked fine. but there was one issue, right? So he calls me at 3 a.m. and he says, "Fix this fucking thing or get it out of my house," and then hangs up on me. And so I called Tim, the technician, and like I said, it's like 3 a.m. And I was like, Bob just called me, cussed me out, and said, "You better get here." And Tim was like, "All right, I'm on my way." So it turned out the installers, when they put the cabinet on the front, pinched like a hose for the pressure switch or something.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Problem was solved. It was the 3 a.m. debacle, but that's so when you say it goes sour, though, you got to kind of clarify because the problem was kind of fixed or whatever. But
yeah, but there was another bout after that. I sold him a 2-stage variable speed furnace. Okay. So in Illinois, you sell a fancier furnace and a little bit more basic air conditioner sometimes. Sure. Like here, we sell a little bit more basic furnace and a fancy air conditioner. Right. And he could not wrap his head around 2 stages. So he was like, the air that's coming out of my vents is not hot enough. Like, this furnace is broken. I want you guys to put a new one in, replace it, yada yada yada.
He needed a 1 stage.
Yeah, exactly. So Tim goes back out there and he bypasses the low stage and makes it a 1 stage. Unfortunately, he paid crazy money for. But yeah, no. Till this day, I think about that guy because
there's a lot to learn. There's really a lot to learn in that.
I learned everything that I needed to know about being a sales rep in the HVAC industry on that one call. Typically, the hardest ones to get to are the easiest ones to sell. Right? This guy needed my help.
I don't know if I agree with that sentiment. I think it takes a specific type of person, and I think that. Like James just said when you commented, James Elwell said, like when he said it's going to be 15 minutes, you'll be out of here in 15 minutes. He said that's what I say. Okay, great. It's 20 grand. That's when I say, okay, it's 20 grand. How are you paying today? So James is old school. What's up, James? Okay. You mentioned about the suicide awareness, and I'd be remiss if I did not mention something really important. It just happened to me, and for anybody that doesn't believe in like God or like some sort of like, I don't know, undercurrent, whatever you want to call it, I don't care. You want to call it karma, you want to call it anything, it exists. Okay.
For sure.
Recently I've actually been like working with customers. I'm out on the road. I'm building a business. It's really cool. I met a doctor who at his house, and in this new venture that I've gotten involved in, and as we were talking, I was there for a while, and as we were talking, he mentioned that we were talking about stuff, and I saw something that just was like a strange coincidence, and I was like, and we had a great rapport. I said, "Hey man, do you believe in God?" And he turns to me and he's like, "Why'd you ask me that?" And I just said, "Well, it's like these things happened like twice, and it's just so crazy, kind of deja vu-ish and all this weird stuff." And he's like, "It's so funny." He's like, "I lost my son. His son was 37 years old in the prime of his life, was a doctor, went to a prestigious school, was really, was on his way, like just in it. And it was a terrible accidental sort of thing that happened. They might classify that as a suicide. I don't know how that works. And it was like, you get stressed out and you're like, oh, I'm going to go, take some, Adderall, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that. Right. And he's a doctor. So he's like, he knows what he's doing. Right. And it didn't work out. And it was pretty terrible. That had just happened to him like a couple of months before I asked that question. And as we started talking, he goes, I've been reading books on, because he himself was a doctor, and he goes, I've been reading books on finding answers, right? Everybody says like, well, there's a reason why these things happen. There's a reason why this happens. There's a reason why this happens. All these reasons. He's like, and I've been reading and I've been reading and I've been trying to find the answers. And I look for the answers. I can't find any answers. He's like, and for a long time, me and my wife and my family, we just didn't even talk to people and tell them anything that happened. Like they knew it, but we didn't want to talk to anybody.
Yep.
Like they just like couldn't believe what happened.
Yeah.
to their 37-year-old son.
Yeah.
So
Maybe they felt a little guilty or maybe even a little embarrassed.
I don't even have any words. It's just it's so important that people like realize, like, it's like you just don't know. Like if you screw around with stuff and you think you're smart and you have your limits and like you're doing all these bad things or whatever, or you're messing around with drugs or whatever it is, like, dude, it's dude, like that, dude, you're talking about, you know, a kid who's worked his entire life to get to the point where he was dude, his kid was born like right after he died. Like it was
Uh-huh.
I mean, bro, he left behind this kid, this family. They had just moved to like another place. I mean, dude, probably one of the most heartfelt stories. Like we basically hugged after we were done. We talked and just had therapy, right? I mean, a complete stranger. And then you know what? And actually, Mike, I'm glad you told that story too, because I think that the main reason why I even wanted to do these conversations over the last however, 40, 50 episodes was exactly for this reason. It's so strange that you have people that can come into your life for very, very short periods of time that can make such a big impact.
That's actually, it's the reason why I put him down as, somebody that a story that I carry with you is because Bob didn't know it, but he gave me a why that day. And it's happened every month, every couple of weeks since then. This what I do gives me I don't love HVAC. I don't love air conditioning and heating. The reason I love what I do is because I can be the catalyst to somebody actually speaking up and talking about things. Like he might have not talked about that with anyone before
Right.
or
Like he
something
may
like
not
that.
talk about that with a friend because he
Exactly.
just, but with a stranger, I've actually had a woman, and when I tell you the tears were pouring down her face. She was, I mean, guttural cries. I mean, I met her like an hour earlier. She's sitting in front of me, and after she was done crying, she wiped her eyes and she was like, "Oh man, that felt so good." She's like, "I love talking to you. Like, you're not a friend. You know what I mean? I don't know you, like, but you're just warm to talk to, and I really appreciate that." And she went upstairs and she grabbed $7,000 in cash.
There it is, man. That's
Like,
yeah,
but
exactly.
here's the
That's
deal. I didn't care. Like in those moments, I know we say like, "Listen, you got to feed your family, you got to do your job, you got to do this, you got that." Fine. I didn't care. In those moments, I think me not caring whether or not
exactly.
I got the business, I didn't get the business. It didn't matter to me. I was like,
Yeah.
I made an incredible connection right here, right? So, for
That's
whatever it's worth.
exactly. So that's my why on why I love what I do. And I I still experience it all the time. And now if I have just a couple of weeks ago I had a call like that. And I make a point on every single one of those types of calls that remind you why you love what you do to thank them for it. And whenever I'm leaving the house, like, hey, I'm gonna be honest with you, it's a little burnt out here. Just kind of going through the motions and stuff. And you reminded me why I love what I do. And I thank you that, and I appreciate it more than you think. Right. Even if it's a sale or not, which typically if I'm thanking somebody for that, they probably bought, but it doesn't matter that they bought. Right. I made a friend. I don't know if they did, but it's important to get people to speak up, whether they want to or not, and being the person that can get people to talk, right? So I've found tremendous satisfaction in what I do for that reason.
Oh, look at this. I have a friend here, Joy Lynn, who said, Joy, hey, Joy, of course, you're a great person to talk to, but also great for so many other qualities. Marlowe's valuable lapels. Love you, Joy. Thank you. Before we're going to wind down a little bit here, but did you? I think you had another story in the tank here. I think there was one more. Is there one more, Mike, or did we cover them all?
Well, I got
Because the
one
most
more.
important story before you go into that one is, what was it like working for me? That's what I want to know, Mike. What was it like
Oh,
working for me?
dude, it was hell. I wanted to quit every day. It was the worst thing I've ever endured. No,
Yeah.
I actually I was lucky. So whenever I moved to North Texas, I had a really hard time kind of finding normal in my work because that was my work. My work was my normal before, and I found it really hard to find leadership that was, I guess, proficient in leading or sales training or being just a leader, right? So whenever I met you, it was a breath of fresh air because not only did you do sales training, but you are also a fantastic leader in the sense that you know how to lead each individual person. I talked to somebody about you the other day, and I got to brag on you a little bit, and I told them he knew exactly how to lead me. He knew exactly how to lead the other guys that were on the team, and I miss him terribly for that
Hmm.
reason because there's a shortage of leadership in North Texas, I think, or that I've found, right? And I was very sad to see you go. I remember kind of cussing you a little bit whenever you were whenever you were out the door. I was like, dude, I just got here, type thing.
Mm. I
And
really
that was
wonder why that is, though. I wonder why it is that you feel like there's a shortage of leadership because I think there is too. I think I have a reason why. I think I know
s-
why.
so I don't think so. Here's the thing: is the culture here, the work culture here is different in a sense that there's a lot of bosses and there's
Mhm.
not a lot of leaders, right? So I feel like bosses, they do what they're supposed to do, and they don't do much more than that. And prior to you, that's all I had experienced. So I was like, is this just a completely different industry or different? I didn't know what the heck was going on, and I was having a really hard time with it. So whenever I got to work with you, you're kind of you recognize the way that I work. I work much better under somebody who gives me all the tools to succeed, but lets me succeed on my own type thing. Um, and you actually, you know, held sales training, and we went over things, and we would, kind of dissect calls and see how to improve each individual thing. But yeah, no, I hadn't experienced that prior to meeting you, Mr. Everett, and I'm blessed to have you. Well, have had you as my leader.
Yeah, dude, it makes me feel really good. I'm glad that you said that. I will say that I think if anybody is listening to this and they're saying, well, am I a good leader? Are you a good leader? Um, I think it's really important to really hone in on what you're doing, right? And if you have a servant's mindset, right? Like I heard from there's a sports coach, but it was really impactful when I listened to this like leadership development thing. And the sports coach, I actually think it was Doc Rivers, and he had just won national championship, an NBA championship. And he said, he goes like, guys, I need you to know this. He's like, first of all, I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to make mistakes. And I hope that when I make those mistakes that there'll be some grace and we can work through them. Secondly, he goes, I you don't work for me, right? I work for you. And
Exactly.
I think that's the problem with the boss mentality is like, you got to understand when you're in management leadership, these people who are reporting to you, uh, you work for them. Your job is to make them better,
Yep.
right? Your job's to make them better. And so, but I was very fortunate because, like you, Mike, I was able to get a lot of training and development training, and do my own self personal development all the time. And so that I think is a good thing when you start to do that, and it doesn't always go well. Like it doesn't always go well because you may see the right things to do, but you may be in the wrong culture to do it as well, right? Like you may not be enabled to do that. And a lot of cultures foster not being able to be a good leader because of the way that they run their organization. And that's the tough part about leadership is that if you're not at the top and you're kind of in that mid management and you're reporting to people and whatnot, it's
Yeah.
very difficult sometimes to make those decisions that will truthfully, really, when you see like impact the business. And luckily, I was given enough autonomy at where we worked together, where I was able to make a good. We listen, man. We set a lot of records. We did a lot. We did. I mean, in the time that we were there, we did a little. We succeeded a lot of things. We had great reviews. We had great. I thought we had a really good culture. I'm glad. I'm really happy that I got the chance to actually work with you. And I hope we get to work with each other again, because I think you're kind of a one of a kind guy. You really are. And you love to develop, you love to read. You and I would always talk about those things, but you have to have a culture that's willing to do that for you. So I really appreciate it. On the last little wind down note here. So you did have, I think you did have one other kind of like little story. I'm interested in hearing this one.
Okay. So this one is within the last couple of years. So it was in Dallas. This would probably be ranked under the cool, but a little strange at the same time. So so I love to be the expert. I love to design. I love to solve problems. Okay. And that's truly when I shine. And this particular call was in Highland Park. So very, very nice part of the city. And all I knew was that it was 1,800 square foot trophy room. Okay. 1,800 square foot trophy room. I was like, holy shit, is this like a famous guy, like one of the Cowboys football players or something? Even a Cowboys football player, doesn't have enough trophies. Well, they don't have enough trophies for 180 square feet, but
okay, but not if you ask them. So we won't go there. We won't go there. I think I still have a VHS tape of the Super Bowl with the anyway. Again.
Oh yeah, it's been a while, but nonetheless, so I go there, big beautiful home. I'm greeted by a facilitator of projects. Right, this guy is not the decision maker. He's just the person that lets me in the home and shows me what I need to do. So this is a just huge. I mean, huge house, mansion. Like there's a breezeway that's completely glass, getting from one wing to the other wing. I'm talking 10 HVAC systems. And so this trophy room, I was forbid to take any pictures, take any videos. I could not do any of that. And my task was to be able to control humidity and temperature flawlessly to the degree, right? And to whatever percentage humidity they wanted. So the trophy room was actually, I walked in there and my jaw hit the floor. It was like an African safari, dude. 2 rhinos greet you at the door, right? Basically the opening, when you go in there, there's a rhino here and a rhino there. And then you just see lions, tigers, like everything you'd find in Africa, you find there. So I was like, well, this is super duper cool. But they were super weird. And I didn't get to talk to the homeowner at that time. So I was like, I need to go back. I need to do zoning. It was a pretty complicated project. And so I came back and I actually got to meet the owners. And the guy goes to Africa and he like funds these little villages through hunting, right? So he didn't want me to take pictures or any of that stuff because he didn't want any of like the advocacy groups or anything to show up to his house. But after he after he told me his story that, hey, I paid $500,000 for that rhino to this small community in Africa so they could eat and have shelter and all these other things, it's a lot more understanding, right? Because when you walk in there, it's like, is this legal? Like, is this like, can you do this?
Yeah.
So upon further research, right, those 2 rhinos, north of $1 million, just the 2 rhinos, but that's not even mentioning any other exotic animals that were in there. And it was just a really cool experience, but I was, again, sworn to silence as soon as I left the front door. Like his wife and him were like kind of freaking out about it, but they were still cool at the same time. They didn't buy from me because it was too much money, but
yeah, $500,000 for a rhino, no problem. $12,000 for anyway. Before we get okay, so man, I'll do it with you here because I made the joke before. So a couple of people chimed in when I was talking about the Cowboys. So just so you guys know, I don't know if Dan Baker was on here before. I made a bet in the beginning of the football season, and I lost. And the bet was that if the Dallas Cowboys won more games than or went further in the season than the New York Jets, that the loser would have to shave their chest and go to a tanning salon and outline in like sunblock or whatever the emblem of the other team. So I have to go to the tanning salon and I have to put a Cowboys star tan on my chest. So there you have it. Dan, and when you listen to this episode, if you're not there anymore, you won. Obviously, there's no way the Jets can win more games than the Dallas Cowboys. I don't think so, anyway. Yeah. So
don't bet on the goddamn Jets.
Oh yeah, no. Hey man, so dude, thank you so much for coming on here. Did you have anything? What do you anything you want to announce, say, talk about, or anything you're working on? I don't know. Anything you want to say before we roll out?
I'm still just enjoying my career, living, working hard, playing harder. I'm still young. I'm in my 20s, so maybe someday I'll be one of the bigs that are on this podcast. I've seen basically the business builders of North Dallas on this, and I'm honored to be on this podcast, seeing all of the other guys that have been on this. But I will tell you, your friend from Jersey, his story, I completely related to it. How he came from nothing and now he's something. So that's when I texted you, and you were like, "You should be on the show." And I was like,
"Oh, are you talking about? You're talking about like super like accent, like real like big New York accent?" Yeah, that's Blake. Actually, he's from Staten Island, which is like, if you look at a map, you might think it's the same spot, but when you're living up there, it's like a whole nother planet. You got to cross a bridge to get there. It's like 5 miles away, which is an eternity. So
Yeah, exactly. There's also a comment. They actually nailed. You remember the dildo farm or the dildo factory story? The saddle. Somebody in the comments actually nailed the brand.
Oh my gosh! You know what? It was James, and he said it was Sibian. Yep. Yeah, Sibian. Dude, it does not surprise me that James is the one that. If you know James, go friend James on social media. He's a one of a kind guy too. So awesome, dude. Really enjoyed having you on, man. This is a lot of fun, dude. I love shooting the breeze like this. This is a really long episode too, so that's pretty cool.
Sure.
Awesome, rock and roll, dude. Guys, I have upcoming episodes. I'm just gonna announce here. I got a couple of upcoming episodes. I have Mike. I'm gonna take you off for 1 second here. Upcoming, I have a personality profile episode coming up as the next episode. It's on the 7th. I have 2 experts coming on who are I love this. I love this story too. Like. People that deal with people, or people that deal with people in houses, especially. It's going to be with Elise Radowitz and Jason Johnson. They're like specialists in working with people with multiple different personality types. So excited about having that. That's going to be on Tuesday at like 6:37, and then I'll put out a post. And then Thursday, I have a gentleman by the name of Texas Medley, who owns Medley Heating and Air here in Dallas. He's like become a little celebrity because he gets billboards made with him for Service Titan and all these other things. He's an incredible guy, really, really cool guy. And I got Ryan Shute coming up from Wizards of Ads. I've got Julian. I've got it's crazy. I'm stacked, so I'm super stoked. I'm very excited, and I love you all. See ya.